Hey, John, welcome to 2021. Hopefully, a much better year ahead than the last one.
I'm
And
looking forward to it, I'll tell you that.
so am I. So I want to get to your annual hobby, which you have now done for 18 years, which is you declare, over the holidays, hopefully over, some bourbon or so, what the next trends will be for the year ahead. And you usually do 10 plus a bonus one. And this year, again, you have 11. So let's get to it. And if we are here a year from now, which we will be recapping Signal 360, what are the predictions that you are most likely that you most likely see as the themes that we will be talking about?
I think we'll be talking about how we had a year where we acted more pragmatically and addressed some of the more root cause problems in our society that we really didn't have the time or bandwidth to address in 2020. The pandemic took over everything, but we had some big issues that we had already in 2019 identified. Disinformation and misinformation in our media ecosystem, which erodes trust in our economy, in our businesses, in our institutions. I think that's going to be a big set of conversations in 2020. How do we regulate the media ecosystem so that accurate information can be shared and debated amongst citizens? It seems a bit maybe intellectual, but it directly impacts the bottom lines of businesses when there is not trust in the social system that we all operate in. And I think that's a big issue. We'll be, looking back and saying, we may not have fixed everything, but we started to talk about these issues and formulate some approaches and some responses to them. And business itself took a lead in that sector. Alongside that, one of my predictions has to do with Facebook. I said that the company, which really has been Teflon, it's had a lot of bad news cycles over the past 2 or 3 years, but it's just steamed right ahead and made more money and seems, unaffected. I think this year is going to be a difficult one for the company as many of its chickens come home to roost. And the conversation that I mentioned is prosecuted by a pragmatic group of new people in the administration, and society at large, who by the hopefully mid-year we're not going to be completely obsessed with the pandemic, and we can start to talk about some of the other issues we need to address as a society.
Oh, that's a great perspective. And I hope it will be more than just talk, that we will also see some results out of that. Um, in your predictions, you come through as an optimist when it comes to tech innovation, right? But
Right.
the recent past has also shown us that everything touched by tech doesn't necessarily turn to gold, right? In fact, it creates many other issues that engineers, hardcore engineers, never anticipated nor were willing to look at. So how do you square that?
There are so many things to be excited about. Technology that has been sort of bubbling below the surface for a decade or more is starting to show very real world, at scale, positive impact. We saw with the mRNA vaccines for COVID, for example, the work of 2 decades worth of bioinformatic and biotech breakthroughs. We're starting to see really interesting new markets and support for supply chain contracts and so on from blockchain. And that's the result of 10 years of work on that technology. And we're seeing a tipping point in the cost of electric cars and electric vehicles through incredible advances in lithium battery technology. All of these new technologies give, not only myself, but a lot of other observers a lot of hope. But at the same time, we have gotten too excited about technology in the past, as you pointed out, and it's led to externalities that we had not considered. The conversation that I mentioned just a minute ago about how we are going to start to, figure out how to regulate and, approach the technology's impact on society, that will not just be about Facebook or, Google. That will also be about how we roll out new technologies like artificial intelligence, or green technologies, or biotech. We are now, as a society, better equipped to understand the negative impacts of technology as well as celebrate the positive. And I think that's how they tie together.
Yeah, and the one point to highlight here is I've done some reading over the holidays too, and one of the things that, for example, Farid Zakaria points out to the post-pandemic trends is growing inequality, right, as a consequence of what we have seen in the pandemic. And tech is not always known as a positive contributor to that. In fact, tech is blamed for making the people who are already well-to-do better off, right? How do you think we can address that?
2021 being a pragmatic year, we have to go back to the basic, underlying reasons that these things are happening. And in the case of technology being an accelerant of inequality and economic inequality in particular, we have to ask ourselves, do we have a taxation policy that enables that? Do we have a regulatory policy around business that enables that? And we're going to need to see businesses lead and say, you know what, everyone should consider new approaches to how we manage our businesses so that all stakeholders benefit from the success of business and the success of our economy. And that requires we go back to first principles. And for the past 3 or 4 decades, we really have deregulated almost everything in our economy, to the point where it's now possible for one of the most profitable and successful companies in the world, Amazon, to pay no taxes in the United States, which it's also the company that hired millions of people, but at low wages during the pandemic. So how can we take the success of Amazon and ensure it informs the success of our society, and not just the success of the owners of Amazon? That's an important policy discussion we will be having.
Okay, one last quick question. Any wild cards that could throw a monkey wrench into 2021?
One of the companies that's really managed to, even though it's collected its, a half a dozen or more, antitrust and other regulatory actions, is Google. And I think I predict in my, in what I wrote over the new year, that Google will surprise us all with some very important new move, because it does not want to have the brand damage that Facebook is enduring, or that Amazon is currently wrestling with as well. So I expect to see something very surprising from Google, and it might be something as surprising as them proactively doing what many people are calling for, which is spinning off one of their businesses. So we'll see, but I would watch Google.
Well, John, thanks for a very insightful session. We have a lot to look forward to in 2021 with lots of interesting stories. And we'll be bringing a lot of this to Signal 360 and to the Signal stage, where we have our 10th anniversary this year. So exciting times ahead, and glad to be partnering with you.
Me too. And Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody. See you out there.
Happy New Year, everyone.